In this video, we take you through the TransLution standard functions for SO loading. The standard functions for SO loading can only be used if items were picked into boxes and box labels were printed. This functionality cannot be used if checking is being used. To begin, we log in with our credentials. From the Workflow menu screen, we select the SO Load workflow. This brings up a list of the functions available for SO loading. Let's take a look at the Create Load function. This grid is used to add dispatch notes to a load. We select the load ID 0 in the header. In the Details section of the grid, we see all the dispatch notes in SysPro that have packing and checking completed and are not cancelled. We select the dispatch note here and click on the Add to Load button. This creates a load ID that we will use for the rest of the functions. The Print Load Plan button here prints a load plan as shown here. Let's take a look at the load status. Here we see the load that we just created, marked as created. Selecting on this shows us the 2 dispatch notes that were added to this load, with the number of boxes expected to be loaded per dispatch note. Once the truck arrives on site, we select the Truck Arrival function. This function is used to capture the details of the truck when it arrives. Additional steps can be added if there is additional information required to be captured, such as the truck registration. We select the load ID for the load that we just created. We then scan the loading bay. This is not a fixed bin in SysPro, it's just a reference to the loading area. We then enter the driver's name. The function closes. If we look at the load status grid, we see the load marked as arrived with the loading bay and the arrival date and time. The next step is to select the Load Truck function. This function is used to load a truck against a load number. Here we select the load ID for the load we created. We then scan the boxes. TransLution validates that the box is on the dispatch node that is assigned to the load. We are then looped back to the Scan Box step, as TransLution knows there are more boxes to be loaded. We scan the remaining boxes. Once all the expected boxes have been loaded, we are looped back to the Select Load step where we exit the function. On the Load Status grid, we can see the load marked as Loading Complete, with the loaded boxes showing the number of boxes we have loaded per dispatch node. We can select all the rows and click on the Print button to print the load sheet. We also have the option to close a load once loading is complete or cancel a load. Let's take a look at the Remove from Truck function. This function is used to remove boxes from a truck if a mistake was made and they need to be unloaded. We scan the box that needs to be removed. TransLution validates the box was loaded on the truck. On the Load Status grid, we now see the dispatch node, but the loaded boxes shows as 0. If you remove a box from a load, the load status still shows as loading, as the dispatch node is still assigned to the load. To remove it, we have to go to the Create Load grid and remove the dispatch node from the load using the Remove button. This changes the load status to complete since the other dispatch node is now fully loaded. We can then close the load using the Close Load button on the Load Status grid.